I've got a lot of feelings. I'm angry, sad, and but most of all, I'm confuzzled. I'm really confused. Nintendo, what is going on? What is up, you guys? HMK here once again, and it's time to talk about Breath of the Wild 2, or at least talk about what is not Breath of the Wild 2, what we don't know about Breath of the Wild 2, and Nintendo's own strategy with this game, and the fact that, without E3, they're kind of lost in terms of possibly showing off anything with this game that is, remember, it's supposed to come out in spring of next year. And I'm saying that, like, another delay isn't out of the realm of possibility because this is the Legend of Zelda we are talking about. All right. But the reason why I want to bring this up, and a lot of people are like, "Oh, we'll see it when we see it. It'll come when it'll come." Like, it's more than that. It's more than just being a fan. It's more like analyzing Nintendo's own business strategy when it comes to handling this game that we know virtually nothing about when it comes to its own like identity. All we know, it's a sequel to The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. It's coming out next year. Link loses an arm. Ganondorf is back, and we're going to the sky and beyond. Like, we don't have an identity. We don't know how the game is going to run in terms of gameplay. Our shrines back, where we're going to do with dungeons and whatnot. What is the subtitle? The subtitle apparently is such a spoiler that they want to keep it down packed until they're ready to like really blow out the game in terms of revealing what is up with everything, right? And Breath of the Wild, the original Breath of the Wild, didn't go through these weird like loops in terms of how the game was being promoted. I mean, sure, it was weird a bit, but I mean, not this bad. We have known about Breath of the Wild's actual true name, aside from what we called it, Zelda Wii U, in a shorter time frame than Breath of the Wild 2's name, and we still don't know the real name. That's actually kind of insane to me. And if we were to assume the perspective of Breath of the Wild 2 being, starting development in October of 2017, that's what, Creating a Champion insinuates, then Breath of the Wild 2, if it's coming out 2023 spring, then the argument could be made that this game is taking longer development than the original Breath of the Wild in terms of, reusing the world, reusing the assets, reusing a lot of stuff. And I'm not one of those types where it's like, oh, look, they're reusing assets and movements and animations. Lazy. Like, no, like games do that all the time. But I would feel that if you're going to reuse a certain amount of content, then that would expedite development. You know what I mean? But that's besides the point, because Breath of the Wild 2 could take as long as it takes in order to develop. I've been through it all. Breath of the Wild, Skyward Sword, Twilight Princess, Wind Waker, Ocarina of Time. I've been through it, right? So like, it's not even like the amount of development time or like, damn, this game is taking forever to develop. It's not about that. It's about, what is this game? I want to know more about this game. I want to be able to talk more about this game. And it's getting to the point. I'm going to have a more in-depth video like when it comes to this subject and the situation. It's getting to that point that I'm seeing people online that are like hardcore Zelda fans, or have been interested in The Legend of Zelda, or have been like feeling up Legend of Zelda. When it comes to this title, their hype has been like, dwindling, where people are like, yo, I'm just not as hyped for Breath of the Wild 2 as I was for the first Breath of the Wild. And, you can't really blame them. Now, at the same time, I promise you 100% when we finally do get, the reveal, the answer to Breath of the Wild 2's true name and identity and all that stuff, the hype is going to shoot through the roof. I promise you, yeah. But at the same time, should we be comfortable as consumers and as observers, should we be comfortable with this type of strategy that Nintendo has been employing when it comes to certain games, and especially Breath of the Wild 2? And in that idea, Breath of the Wild 2 is even different from how they've been doing Nintendo Switch games as of late. Age of Calamity, they literally had in their pocket, and they showed it off and released it 2 months later. Bam, right? Fire Emblem Three Hopes, they had that game in their pocket. Xenoblade Chronicles 3, wow, oh my lord, they had that game in their pocket. Revealed it February, was supposed to come out September, but it's like, nah, July. So they're doing this big strategy where they're having a lot of games in their pocket. And I promise you that Metroid Prime trilogy, I really believe that Metroid Prime trilogy is in their pocket, and that Twilight Princess and Wind Waker HD are in their pocket. It's just that they're just waiting for the right time to like show it off and have it out. And big case in point, if you've seen the Fire Emblem leaks, if you know, right? That's in their pocket, right? So considering all of that, Breath of the Wild 2 was not really in their pocket. And they shown off a trailer E3 2019, and another trailer E3 2021, and then they had the delay teaser. So it's just weird. Like, why is Nintendo so adamant of not showing off this game? If this Why are they not showing off this game? I can think of two lines of thought. Right, the first is that they obviously don't want the hype to cannibalize other games, because we still got Xenoblade Chronicles 2 that's going to come out in July. We got Splatoon 3 that's coming out later this year, September if I'm recall correctly. Bayonetta 3, if it's still coming out this year, and then Mario Rabbids Sparks of Hope, that's I think coming out later this year. So Breath of the Wild 2, they don't want to, like, tease the bull in terms of like, oh yeah, no, we're not gonna get this game. We're gonna save our money for Breath of the Wild 2. And granted, that's a bit fair, but at the same time, besides the idea of the consumer's perspective, Nintendo has to think about stocks. Nintendo has to think about investors. Nintendo has to think about all of that in terms of, hey, Breath of the Wild 2, where is it? We know we're going to see a massive return in our investments if you talk more about Breath of the Wild 2, if you show off Breath of the Wild 2, and then tell us when Breath of the Wild 2 is coming out so we can expect that big, lucrative return. Because that's obviously a question that comes up every time when there's an investors meeting, and there's one coming up. So it's going to be really interesting to see what Nintendo has to say about that. And hopefully, they will let them know, hey, listen, we're tired of calling it the sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. We're going to need a name, right? That's the other point. Like, but the next point when it comes to what could be going on with Breath of the Wild 2 is that, and I hope that this isn't the point, is that the game is falling apart. Right, and that's not out of the realm of possibility, because there were whispers about that, with the first Breath of the Wild, how the reason why it got delayed a couple of times is because the engine kept, not working so much. But then they were able to figure out, like, the one thing they had to really get in development for Breath of the Wild 1 was like, okay, we gotta make sure this engine works. And even then, when the game came out, people found out to do some wild ass stuff with the engine and whatnot, which is nothing but good things. That helps, drive up the engagement, that drives up the promotion of the game from our end for Nintendo, like easy money, easy promotion, right? So it's not out of the realm of possibility that Breath of the Wild 2 may be falling apart in terms of what they're trying to introduce to the physics engine, to the game that's already established. And you would think that the game, they would have like a good understanding of how the game should run, how the game should roll, how the game should, play after all this is, a sequel to Breath of the Wild. So those are the main two lines of thoughts where I'm thinking, like, what's going on? And of course, and then, the idea of the pandemic, affecting this game's development. But it's not about development. It's not about, like, I'm not mad at the amount of time this game is taking to develop. I just want to know more about the game. It's not a good feeling being left in the dark, right? Especially as, someone who engages content, someone who does, who consumes the content and whatnot. A little transparency goes a long way for everybody, so that with all that, line of thoughts, like, just what could it be? What could it be now that, something that Nintendo would do that will benefit everybody, will benefit them, it will benefit investors, it will benefit us as consumers, it will benefit content creators, it just benefit everybody. Why are they not doing that? You know what I mean? So we're gonna have to wait and see what is beyond the curtain when it comes to Breath of the Wild 2. A lot of people are saying that possibly a September direct or some type of September, announcement or showcase or anything like that. And since June is basically out the door, I really have no idea what Nintendo's planning to do, because Breath of the Wild 2 wasn't even shown off at any of the Game Awards. E3 didn't happen this year, but everyone did their E3 stuff, and Nintendo's just like, oh man, partner showcase, Xenoblade Chronicles 3, which was hyped, by the way. So, like, when people say September Direct, I'm like, man, after everything that we've seen, or I should say not seen, I don't know. Like, but at the same time, it's hard to predict Nintendo. Their movements are erratic, so we'll have to wait and see. But I want to know what you guys think, and, like, let me know if you're frustrated or not, or what's your perspective on this whole, like, shroud over Breath of the Wild 2. Leave your comments and theories in the comment section below, and be sure to like, share, and most importantly, subscribe to HMK for more Breath of the Wild 2 videos, because I have a ton of theories still lined up, but I have only so much to theorize about given what we know, and of course, other Zelda content as well. So until then, this has been your boy, and I'll check you guys later.